broadcasting on the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Hello, Welcome Home listeners. Thank you for joining us on episode 29 of Welcome Home, a Disney Parks and Vacation Club podcast. I'm Tom. I'm here with Trevor. No Damon today, just me and Trevor. So I was trying to think of like a cool nickname for like when it's just you and I. It's like a Tomver.
Tomver.
Oh my gosh!
Somebody can think of a better name, maybe.
I'm sure somebody can. We usually get good names when people recommend themselves. I'm also extremely tired. I had my first child last weekend, so
yes, and congratulations, Tom. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. It was a little unexpected. We were due May 9th, and it was supposed to have a C-section actually on May 2nd, just due to some because the baby decided she didn't want to turn, so she wanted to be breech. But then my wife called me on Saturday. The funny thing is I was going to see Black Panther finally. I was like way behind on this, and I was finally going to see Black Panther because my wife couldn't go. She just, and those of you out there that have had pregnant wives or are women that have been pregnant know that especially towards the end there, you get really uncomfortable and you just can't sit still basically. And so we really haven't been able to go and see any movies. So my wife was going to a bridal shower, and I was like, all right, I'll go see Black Panther. And so I get out of Black Panther, and maybe like a half hour later, I get a phone call, and she's like, my water broke. And I'm like, oh, no. I was like, what do we do now?
You go.
You go, yeah. So ran to the hospital and, been home for a couple days now. So I'm slightly tired, as some of you new parents out there or current parents know. The first couple of weeks are a little rough, but I'm going to do my best today to put a show together with Trevor. So
it's super exciting, and we'll try to make this as painless for you as possible.
It's always good to talk about some things related to Disney. So
exactly.
Well, I wanted to kind of start this week by talking about last week, actually, or last episode, I should say, because we are every other week. We did a little segment in the beginning of the last episode about the first Welcome Home, which, for those of you that hadn't heard the last episode, the idea of when you're a new direct buyer to DVC, that Disney will help you get reservations that are not attainable. So, and Trevor actually had some experience with this, where he was able to get a reservation at a resort that wasn't available, showing as unavailable. So we had kind of thrown a poll out there to see how many of our listeners also knew about this, because I was curious, because talking on this last week, I had no idea that it existed until I saw somebody post on Facebook about it, and then Trevor, you said that you knew about it. Mm-hmm. But so we actually put out a poll out there, and we got 52 votes, which is great. Thanks everybody for voting. And 67% of you had never heard of or never been able to use your first Welcome Home. So I don't feel as bad now.
And that surprises me, because at least when I was talking to my DVC rep, he was very, he was kind of using that as a selling point, which I guess it also depends. This is, if anybody who's bought direct, if you're talking to a DVC rep direct, I would think they would be trying to, advertise this. But it's also kind of a hard place for them to be too, because I read in some of the comments that you guys posted that they provide this because I guess it's a thing for timeshares that they do have to try and honor your first booking. They can't buy you into a timeshare and then say, sorry, you can't do anything for the first 2 years. So I think they kind of keep this on the side as a way to, help people that have bought in right away. And exactly what it is, get something that may be otherwise unavailable. But I don't think they want to necessarily throw it out there for everybody, because then, every new person that comes in under a contract is kind of expecting the impossible, which it sets a bad precedent, right?
Exactly. So, you can't expect the impossible with any of this, but
yeah.
I think you're right. I almost feel like it's something they never brought it up to me because I was on vacation and we weren't even planning on booking another vacation until next year. So I almost wonder if they mention this to people when they have short timelines, or if they're trying to push somebody over the edge, or I don't know. I found it really interesting in the comments that a lot of people were saying, I did a lot of research on this on DVC before I purchased, and I'd never heard of this. And that's kind of how I was. I mean, we do a DVC podcast, and I've never heard of this.
Yeah, but like I said, for us, we spent probably a month going back and forth with our rep before we finally purchased. And I mean, he brought it up in there, maybe, and like you said, maybe that was the thing, is that it wasn't like, we walked in and we were just like, we're going to buy this now. I think it was because we kept asking questions and kept going on, that he was kind of throwing things out there. And maybe that's the approach with this, is that they don't mention it up front, because if you're, going to buy it anyway, then they don't need to mention it.
Exactly. I mean, there's no need to mention something. They don't need to go out of their way if you're already going to buy it, or if you don't need it, right? So in my case, I didn't need it, so they didn't bring it up. But I don't know. It's interesting. I thought it was interesting that we saw a lot of comments where people were like, I had no idea this was a thing, or I tried it and it didn't work, which, given this is not a guaranteed thing, they don't guarantee that they're going to be able to find you a room that's listed as unavailable, but they do try to help you with one. So there's no way they can guarantee that they can do it. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, once again, great that you guys voted on it, and we got some good comments on it and everything. So yeah, for sure. It's good to know. Kind of a neat little tidbit.
Yeah, exactly. I feel good now that I'm not the only one that had no idea about this. So, I mean, I feel slightly better. So, going down the same DVC route here, and this, we're going to use some terminology that, especially new DVC members, and truthfully, this stuff confuses me too. And I don't know about you, Trevor, but I'm always reading this stuff and I'm like, I don't even know what this means. But
yeah, kind of.
Yeah. So, and I saw this, though, I wanted to bring it up, and that's the Copper Creek, which is pretty much one of the newest areas that's for sale, one of the new Disney Vacation Development areas for sale, basically had filed for a declaration, which basically it's adding units into the pool of available rooms to members, right? So as far as I understand it. So I don't know, Trevor, were you going to say something?
Well, so the way I understand the declared thing is so the whole condo area is built already, right?
Yep.
But they're not. So the inventory is not like, let's say they've got 100 rooms. They don't just right off the bat say they have 100 rooms available if they haven't sold the amount of points needed to fill 100 rooms.
Exactly.
So yeah, they start off with like 50 rooms available. And then as more people buy into it, they will release more rooms as inventory that you can book on the website, and the rest of those rooms are just left as cash. So actually, it's kind of interesting, because this info about Copper Creek, I can't talk. Yes, Copper Creek having more of their rooms declared, that actually kind of plays back into the first Welcome Home a little bit. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, that's why I put it there, obviously.
Because
we're really good at transitions. So
exactly.
But so it's to Trevor's point, basically, declared inventory can be reserved with vacation points. These are vacation areas that are kind of associated with the ownership interests that have been purchased by members. And so basically right now, Copper Creek is 50% declared. So basically 50% sold out, if you want to look at it that way. So yeah, exactly. So it sounds like it's actually selling pretty quickly, which is good. But a lot of people don't realize too. You always see the comment, and I don't know if we've even ever addressed this on the show before. But the whole idea of sometimes people will go and look look on the availability tool on the DVC website, and they'll be like, "Wait a second, how come there's no availability for me as a DVC member? But then if I go onto Disney World's website, I could pay cash for a room." Right, and a lot of that is
why.
This is why, yeah. And so, and there's a lot of different things that go on with this. Like, for example, if I decide to use if I have own points at Bay Lake, and I decide to use those points to stay at a non-DVC property, let's say I decide I want to stay at Port Orleans, I don't know. And so, in order for them to pay for that transition, they're actually paying they're going to use my points, and they're going to pay for that room at Port Orleans, because remember, Disney Vacation Developments (DVC) is a separate entity from Disney World and from the Walt Disney Company. It's a separate entity. It's not from the Walt Disney Company. It's just kind of a division, but they are separate, right? And so when you're doing that room, then those amount of points, they get put into the cash inventory, right? And the reason is that's how they end up paying for me staying at Port Orleans. And I hope that makes sense. But that's kind of why that happens, is some of these rooms get put into the cash inventory when we decide to use those points for things that are outside of our resort. It also happens, that there's an inventory of rooms that are just cash rooms anyway. And I've always heard that was due to not DVC, but timeshare laws. So
yeah, exactly. That they do have to. They can't say that everything is 100% booked, and there's no way you would ever be able to make use of your points within a year. I mean, within a certain week, yes, they can say, everything's booked, we can't get you what you want, but they can't ever work it into a position where it's impossible to ever use your points.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, that was a little bit of a tangent, but still, I think interesting for the DVC discussion anyway.
Yeah.
But now on to just general parks things. There's not always a ton of DVC news out there. We try to cover a couple topics each week, but there isn't always things to talk about with that. So wanted to bring this up, and I don't know why we didn't bring this up weeks ago when it was announced, but I thought this looked kind of pretty cool. And this is Donald's Dino Bash, which is pretty neat. It's going to be, for those of you that haven't seen this, Animal Kingdom will be, and this is in obviously the Dino Land area, right? Will be adding this. It almost looks like a show, but it's not. It's from what I can tell anyway. It's.
I
don't
thought
know.
it was kind of like a stage show, but they also have meet and greets too.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way, but it's not very specific about that, right? So, but beginning May 25th, basically, Donald and a bunch of the other characters are kind of so-called taking over the Dino Land area and transforming it into a celebration. And basically, there's going to be different meet and greets that will be, and they'll be wearing like dinosaur-inspired costumes. So the cool thing about this is you'll be able to meet, and meet and greets have been kind of. I don't want to say sparse at Animal Kingdom, but there used to be Camp Mini Mickey where you can meet some guests. I mean, you can meet some characters, but not as much since that area was gone. But you'll be able to meet like Donald, Daisy, Pluto, Goofy. The one that I got excited about was Launchpad. I think that one's pretty cool.
Yeah,
right?
let's highlight and bold that one, please.
Yeah, right. Exactly. The line should be the longest for Launchpad. Forget about everybody else. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Scrooge McDuck is in there as well.
Oh, really? Is he?
Yeah. In the announcement it says Launchpad and Scrooge are in there, so both
great.
are worthwhile. But I'm holding out for Darkwing personally. If they can get Darkwing in there,
I think at one of the Moonlight Magic events, I saw Darkwing Duck was meeting with people.
Yes, he was, and I'm so sad that I wasn't able to go last year because I would have gotten to meet him. But that's on my bucket list. Launchpad and Darkwing are definitely huge for me. So
Launchpad's a cool one. I feel like Chip 'n Dale's a cool one too, even though like that one's been around. But Launchpad is one you don't really see at all.
Well, and Chip 'n Dale, and all the standard characters, like you said, they are in Dino Land specific costumes. So it's not just meeting Chip 'n Dale. It's it's a different dressed up Chip 'n Dale. So
exactly. Yeah. So no, I think this is really cool. I'm glad they're doing something like this. I do think it's interesting. Now, one of the articles I'm reading about this does say that this could become it was originally kind of presented as like a temporary thing, but apparently it's possible. I guess the show director for it kind of insinuated that it's going to be a permanent thing. So
permanent until they stop doing it.
Yeah, it's permanent until they cancel it.
Which could be 6 months, could be a couple years, right?
Exactly.
And I guess as we're talking about here, and I was kind of thinking about how Dinoland is laid out and everything. There's nowhere really for them to do a stage show, but again, when I think about it, is how in Frontierland, how they have the different like frontier type characters walking around, like you'll meet like Brer Fox and Brer Bear, and the guys from Country Bears Jamboree and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they come later.
Yeah, so but they also do like like they do like a square dancing thing and stuff like that. I'm wondering if it'll be like that, where, you know, the characters kind of come out and it's a more interactive, like, you know, they're dancing or having a party or whatever, which I think might actually be better, because I think those kinds of interactions are a lot more fun than, you know, just watching the characters on stage or whatever. So
yeah, no, I would agree. I would think it would be cool if there was a show component to this. I don't know. And maybe we're just, I haven't seen, the only two announcements I've seen about it haven't said anything about a show, but it almost seems like it's a show, but I don't know. All I've seen is like kind of the concept art and the different characters that you'll be able to meet there. So I think it would be fine if it was just a meet and greet, because like I said, I think it's a necessary thing for Animal Kingdom, and you know, you always have to have those meet and greets, and plus, you know, Launchpad. But I mean, I would love to see them rotate in some rare characters into those too. I just think that would be fun if they could do that. But I'm trying to think of who I'd even want to see, though. I mean, I think Darkwing Duck's a good one, but
yeah, and I mean, the thing is because it's very themed around, you know, Donald celebrating the fact that, or yeah, for those that don't know the story, it's, you know, Donald figured out that he's related to dinosaurs because he's a bird. So yeah, so he's, you know, super stoked about that. And so I'm thinking, you know, all the bird type characters, so, you know, all the different ducks, I would hope maybe, you know, Huey, Dewey, and Louie at some point, because DuckTales is back in the spotlight. So
was DuckTales successful? Was the reboot successful? Do we know? Because I'm curious. If it was a success, then I would say they definitely will do it, right?
So season 2 is starting up in June, I think, June or July, something like that.
Well, I guess if there's a season 2, it's a success, right? So
yeah, so yeah, that's coming along, and again, maybe we'll see more characters like Webbigail from that as well. Would be kind of neat, you know, if they expanded on the DuckTales universe.
It's probably hard to find people that short to do to be in the costumes.
Well, they've redone Huey, Dewey, and Louie and Webbigail, that they're closer to like a tween type age, so they're a bit bigger than they were in the old ones. Yeah,
so only slightly shorter than, like, you know, probably around the same height as Scrooge, just like a little shorter. Yeah,
they're a little bit shorter than Scrooge, so I think it's totally doable, and I do have hopes for this. Sadly, because I'm going to be there like next week, I'm going to miss this. Yep. But we're going again in January, and I'm hoping that this will still be running by then, so we can check it out.
Yeah, no, I would think it would be. It seems like it's going to be something that they're going to be doing pretty consistently. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? You know, you never know with Disney. Disney, you know, will do things and say it's permanent, and then they disappear. Which, by the way, I wanted to mention, I didn't have this on our list of things to talk about today, but did you see, I know you're going to be there next week, did you see that the Friendship boats are going to be closed starting May 7th?
The Friendship boats?
The boat that takes you from the Epcot resorts to, which is not going to affect you really at all.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you had a dinner thing. Unless you had a dinner thing, or you're going to want to go to the boardwalk or whatever. There's the buses, the boats that go back and forth between them, but that's not really going to affect you, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, I wasn't even aware of this, because it's not even on my radar. We're staying at the Polynesian, so we've got the monorail.
You got the monorail, you got the boats too. I always like taking the boats to Magic Kingdom personally, but I mean,
we're gonna try all of them out. We're gonna see what we like and what we don't like while we're there. So
well, you got to go on the monorail, because didn't you say you've never been on the monorail?
Yeah, it's like first thing on my list.
Nice. Yeah. You know, just a warning, Trevor, since you've never been on it before, it does tend to smell like a barnyard on there.
Okay. So I've been on the original monorail in Disneyland.
Okay.
And that one's actually smaller and gets funkier on a hot day, I would think, because it's a very enclosed space. So because it's the Disneyland one is the Mark II, and Disney World is the Mark IV, I think. I probably got those numbers totally wrong. I'm sorry.
I think they're further than that. I don't know.
Or is it Mark IV or Mark VII? I can't remember.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I can tell you.
I should know this, and I feel really
okay, so the current ones at Disney World are the Mark VI.
Mark VI. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, I was totally off. So maybe it's the Mark IV that's at Disneyland, but
that sounds probably right.
So those ones are a lot smaller for sure. And so I've been on a monorail. I just haven't been on the Disney World monorail. So yeah, I'm definitely prepared for for,
the
how it
barnyard
can get.
smell.
Yep.
I always called that tourist stink, because everybody's been walking around the parks all day in the heat. And I mean, I always go in the summertime. Yeah, it does.
Yep.
I always say, like, I've heard people complain about it. I'm like, yeah, I don't even know how they could prevent it unless they like just have like a constant like ventilation, shooting out the top of it, get rid of all the stink.
Well, I'm okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to make a very semi-inappropriate joke here.
Oh no!
About how I don't know if you saw, like, or it was earlier this year, where one of the doors failed and they were going from the TTC to Epcot, and the door was hanging open. I mean, that kind of solves your ventilation problem.
That's why it opened in the first place. Somebody couldn't stand the smell and they just pried it open. They're like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
I got to just stick my head out the window. Anyway, tangents. We're going on tangents even without Damon here. Damon's usually the one that takes us off in crazy directions.
Yeah, but these are fun ones today. So
that's true.
Yep.
So in the continuation of talking about fun things. I don't know if you saw this, the giant statue of Woody that has been installed outside of Toy Story Land next to the Toy Story Land marquee, which is there, and of course it's Woody is tipping his hat, but it's 20 feet tall, looks super cool. I guess it's kind of what's that?
All I saw, I did see about this because plenty of people made articles using the double entendre about.
Of course they did.
About a large Woody at. Disney World.
Yep. That's I would think that could go there pretty easily.
I mean, it's obvious, and you knew it was going to happen. But you're right. The entrance looks great. Like I am so excited for when that place does finally open. I think it'll be a fantastic addition to Hollywood Studios. Yeah,
and I of course this goes along with having something that large to when you're starting puts you in the mindset of, okay, I'm shrinking down to the size of a toy. Although with it being 20 feet tall, you're much smaller than the size of those toys, I guess. But from all of the concept art I've seen, it seems like you are just smaller than the toys that are in Andy's yard, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean the idea is that when you look at the landscaping and everything, is that it's almost like you're standing in the grass. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So like if you're in the grass, like Woody is much taller than that, so it would make sense that you think of yourself as about the size of those toys you get out of the 25-cent machines.
Exactly. Or one of the army men, like one of the little army men. That's about your size, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep. So.
No,
I just thought that was cool to mention, and those of you that haven't seen it, we'll post a picture along with the podcast announcement on our Facebook page. It looks pretty cool. I think it's going to be cool. I did hear a rumor, by the way, Trevor, that they're getting ready to start doing cast member previews followed by DVC previews, but I think it might be too late for you at this point, unfortunately.
I'm pretty sure if there was anything we could have reserved, I'm sure I would have heard about it by now. Yeah. So I don't have any preconceived notions that I'm going to be in there while I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, unless you get super lucky and just
if there's a miracle soft opening one day, then yes, but I'm not holding out any hope for that.
It's so early still, and there's a lot of rumors that they're a little behind on construction, so it would be tough for that to happen. But you guys do have reservations for the Void, though, right? You're doing the VR thing?
Yes, we do. We will be checking that out. So
I'm excited to hear a review of that.
Yep. Oh yeah. You don't worry. You guys will hear all about this stuff when I get back.
Yeah, really excited to hear about that. So
yep.
So we Trevor and I and Damon have been kind of talking forever about having a segment on the show, and since we started creating segments for the show and doing production work and actually making segments, we decided that we wanted to create a new segment, and we're calling it DizTech. And what this is Disney technology. And actually, this week was a good week to start it because, man, was there a lot of tech stuff that was released or rumored. And Trevor had asked, he wanted to talk a little bit about Magic Bands because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about Magic Bands. A lot of people don't understand the technology. They don't understand how it works. They have they think things that incorrect things about them that they do and that they don't do. So Trevor's just going to talk a little bit about dispelling some of those different things that Magic Bands can and cannot do.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks, Tom. So I guess the first thing is that so I'm on Facebook in a bunch of different groups, and I do see people. They ask questions about magic bands. They ask about, can I use it to get in here, even though I bought it for I bought it 2 trips ago. Can I use it to get in here and this and that and all that? And some of the responses that I see just it just shows. I mean, first of all, the disclaimer: I am a tech guy. I do work in IT, so this stuff is very second nature to me. But part of my job, as an IT guy, is that I do help to try and demystify some of the things that go on in IT. Because if you don't understand it, it does look like magic, which in the case of magic bands is kind of a good thing. But I do like to help people be educated and understand how these things work, so that you can make the technology work for you, right? And I guess the first thing about magic bands is that, or I guess the simplest way to understand magic bands is that it's basically like a coat check service, believe it or not. I know it sounds weird, but people seem to think that with the magic band itself, that band is specific to you, and it holds a bunch of information specific to you, but it actually doesn't. The magic band is actually just it's what would be called, I guess, a dumb device. So the magic band itself is
I like the term dumb device.
Yeah, it's not a smart device because it doesn't actually do anything. All it does is give you access to do things. The magic band itself uses something called RFID technology, which is radio frequency identification technology. So so all it has in it is a couple of little chips, and there's actually there's one chip that has a serial number of sorts in it, right? So that serial number is just a number. It's actually when you go to set up a magic band and you punch in the number on the magic band, that's letting the system know that you have that particular serial number. And then the magic band itself has that chip, and it has two RFID antennas in it, a short range and a long range one. So your short range antenna is that, so when you go up to like when you go into the park and you scan your magic band, or when you go to a fast pass and you put your magic band up against that little scanner thing, that's your short range RFID. And the thing about that is that it only has a range on it of, I actually looked this up. So I did some reading on the actual magic band technology, because some people have done teardowns on it and everything. So that short range antenna is only good up to like 10 centimeters. Shoot, what is that in inches?
What's that in American, Trevor?
I'm sorry. 10 centimeters is, let me get Google up here. I should know this, but
I feel like we should
don't.
all know this.
Yeah. So about
4 inches?
4 inches, yeah. So from 4 inches away is as far as those short range scanners go. But then the next question is how is it when you're on a ride, like, Tower of Terror or Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, that, you get your photo or your video without having to actually scan your magic band, or like when you're on Small World and it says goodbye to you at the end of the ride and it knows your name. That's actually the second antenna that goes inside of the magic band, which is a long range RFID antenna. And the thing about that one is that it's good up to 50 feet. I converted it already. So
nice
it's about 50 feet line of sight. So that means it has to be, whatever is scanning your magic band has to be visible. So if you're hiding your magic band under your, like if you're sitting on your hands or something, it's not going to necessarily register your magic band with the long range scanner. The other thing about that long range antenna is that it actually has to have a battery in it. So in order to do that long range, is that your magic band is broadcasting your little serial number over to a receiver that's sitting 50 feet away. So that's the two different antennas that are going on inside of the magic band. And so the thing to keep in mind with that is that, people talk about, I've seen some things, people saying, if you disable your magic band, it'll save your battery or this or that or whatever. But the problem is that if you disable your magic band in the system, that antenna is still running. So the battery powered antenna, which is your long range RFID antenna, it never stops running, but it's very low power, and it's the kind of thing like that's where they say, you know, these Magic Bands will last for about 2 years with the battery inside of them. And that's not to say that the Magic Band becomes useless after those 2 years either, right? Because even that's just the battery for the long range antenna. Mm-hmm. If that fails, that just means, you know, if you're on Tower of Terror, you're not going to get the video at the end of the ride because your Magic Band didn't get scanned for that. But you can still use the short range to enter the parks, do your fast passes, do all, like, enter your room at your hotel and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, whenever I see these questions about Magic Bands, I hope that, you know, to our listeners out there, you know, I hope this helps. And if you guys have more questions, or if you've got more insight into how these things work, definitely hit us up in the comments, because, you know, I do like reading about this stuff. I do like knowing more information, but everything that I've read so far about them, this is how I understand that it works, is that it's a very simple device. It just has a serial number in it. And all that serial number is doing is, you know, when you scan your Magic Band, it's going into the system and saying, which account is this serial number tied to? And then that's how they're getting all your information. So if you guys have any more knowledge or insight into it, let us know. But hopefully this helps some people kind of understand how they work, and so they're not as concerned about, you know, is my Magic Band going to stop working? Is it, you know, going to work for this and not work for that, and all that kind of thing. So, yeah. Yeah,
that makes total sense. I actually, it's funny, you were talking about technology and magic before, and I always think about the Arthur C. Clarke quote, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yes,
I love that quote. So.
Yeah, and it's true. And yeah, once you understand the magic, Magic Bands become less magic. But I guess for me is, you know, some people say, you know, you're ruining the magic, but I actually appreciate it more. I guess because because it is actually a very complex system, and I do respect how they implemented it, because it's the design behind it that's more impressive to me than actually the little rubber thing that goes on my wrist.
I totally agree with that. It's, you know, the one that always reminds me, I always, and I don't know if you've done this one at Disney World yet, Trevor, but you definitely should, even though it's geared towards much, I think, younger kids than yours, but Belle's Enchanted Tales. I don't know if you did that when we were there last time.
No.
So there's a beginning, and this is not, I guess I'll say spoiler alert, but there's, when you walk into this room in the beginning, you're like, well, where do we go from this room? It's just, you know, there's the only door that's there is the one you came through, and there's a big mirror on the wall, and they do this little thing, this little show, and they say, you know, well, I forget exactly what they say for it, but all of a sudden the mirror, you know, there's all sorts of magical projections around the mirror, and the mirror stretches to become a door. Like, stretches out full length to become a door. And I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, I know that's not real, but that was amazing. And that was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And it just blew my mind. Like, we go to see Belle's Enchanted Tales just to see that and some of the animatronics that they have in it. But just because the technology is incredible in it. I mean, just the different things that they have as part of it. Some of the effects in the show, like the Lumiere animatronic, the candle, you know, from Beauty and the Beast, the way he moves and everything. The technology in that show is so underrated, and the talking about things that feel like magic. When I saw that mirror turn into a door, I was like, wow! Like, it just was amazing. It was amazing. It blew my mind, and I feel like it's one of those things that people don't talk about that much.
I feel like the way you're describing it sounds very similar to like the stretching room.
Yes,
like
definitely.
It's that illusion of, you know, things changing as you're standing there, which that's totally a very magical thing, and I can appreciate that. And I'll have to try and convince my 10-year-old son that we need to go and watch.
I think you should check it out.
Yeah,
it frequently has like a 20-minute wait, and you can definitely get in there pretty. It's always one of those ones that has like an additional fast pass available. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think it's a lot of people just don't know what it is. But I'm telling you, just that opening scene like is worth it, because, like you're talking about with the stretching room, you know, if you're looking at it, you can figure it out. You know, you can see some of the pieces of it and how it works. This one, I'm just looking at it, and it looks like a mirror. Like, it looks like a legitimate mirror. And then somehow the mirror part disappears, and it's a doorway, and it's just it's mind blowing. It's so cool when you see it. So anyway, that's going off on a tangent, but
that's good to know. I will try to get that on the list for sure when we're down there.
Definitely do it. So that being said, we're talking about fast passes, even though what I'm about to say it's not about fast passes, but about when you're waiting
magic.
Yes, and in-park magic. I think this is interesting. So Disney is coming out with something they're calling the Play Disney Parks app, and it's launching in the summer. They don't say exactly when, but it's going to be launching in the summertime. And basically, the idea behind this, you're gonna, when you're kind of waiting in line, there's going to be games that you can play. It looks like different ways that you can interact with the surrounding environment from a phone, and you can access exclusive experiences. And this is both for Disneyland and Disney World, and it's both for iOS and Android. But I thought this was really interesting, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, it reminds me a lot. I don't know if when you were there last time and you went on Soarin'. Soarin' now has like a trivia competition if you wait in the queue line, and you do it from your phone. You don't do it from. You used to be able to play games just by like waving and stuff, and doing all sorts of different things in the Soarin' queue line. But now this is like a thing you log into your phone and you do this trivia competition and you can put a name in and all that fun stuff. So I'm just thinking of this as almost like the new. I don't know. This is the new like interactive queue in a way.
Yeah, and actually, so when they've done something similar to this at Disneyland. So
okay.
Yeah, so what they did was so there's a show in DCA called World of Color, and so while you're waiting for World of Color, there's a website you go to you have to be on the Disney Wi-Fi and in the park to use it, but you play a game. It was like same thing. It was kind of a trivia game, but then. You would get a score. So as you were going through answering the questions, you would get a score, and then whoever got the highest score that was waiting in the area would actually get control over the lighting pattern on Mickey's Fun Wheel. So before the show started, Mickey's Fun Wheel, it's always changing colors and stuff like that. But then whoever won the show, they actually got a little app that would pop up, and they could pick different patterns and stuff and change how the fun wheel was lit up. Huh. So yeah, it's
I wonder
cool.
if that'll be like integrated into this new app. Like since that was a website before, I wonder if they'll keep that but put it into this new app as part of.
Yeah, probably. And I can see more stuff like that where you're either maybe there'll be things where it's competitive, you're playing against other people. Or, maybe it'll be trivia type things like on Soarin', or just general things in line. I know for me and my family, like when we're waiting in line, we do have our phones with us. And have you ever played Heads Up, that game that Ellen promotes?
I haven't played it, but I've seen people playing it online every single time I've ever been online at a Disney line. So
yeah, and the thing about Heads Up is that they actually have decks that are specific to Disney, and it's the same thing. You can only access those decks when you're at Disney. So we've always used those in line because it helps pass the time. And it sounds like this is again next level of that, is that they'll have more things like that. The interactive things, what I can see them using is do you know what glyph tracking technology is?
Glyph tracking. That sounds familiar.
It's an augmented reality thing. So basically, the idea behind it is, you use your camera on your phone, and then when you point your camera at something, a glyph is it's like a design. Think of like a QR code, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a QR code. It can be like a particular design of any kind. Actually, kind of like have you ever done Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, the card game?
Yeah.
So the little symbols on the cards, like when you point your card at the different screens, and it'll do like it's the different attacks or whatever.
Yeah, it does the different things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an example of glyph tracking. Is that the symbols on those cards tell the system what to do. So I can see them doing something like that with this app as well, where you point your phone at something, and then you'll see on your screen like. In my head, I keep seeing you're in line for the Little Mermaid ride, and you look at something, and then Sebastian will pop up on your screen. That just seems obvious to me, right? That it'll be like an interactive, augmented reality thing, right? So.
Well, yeah, and I assume that at some point this is going to extend to rides too, where you're going to be able customize your experience somehow with those. I was thinking, they keep talking about all this customization that's going to be able to happen at Star Wars Land. I do wonder if there's going to be some portion of that through this app as well. Although I feel like that
just
kind of
not
ruins
on the ride, please.
Yeah, I know, I agree. And I also am thinking to myself, well, are they going to use an app called Play Disney Parks when you're in Star Wars Land, when you're supposed to be paying, believing that you're in this immersive land and somewhere else? Like, does that kind of ruin the immersion? I don't know. Maybe they'd have their own app or something. I don't know.
Well, no. The thing is when you're standing in line, like, people have their phones out anyway. So, I would think that's kind of the idea. But, yeah, you're right. You don't want people running around the park, with their phones out,
Yeah, that's true.
It already happens enough as it is. And there's already enough people that, have their phones out on the rides when they should just be, enjoying the ride. Yeah, instead of looking at the ride through the phone, actually looking at the ride. So I hope
I'm with you on this.
Yeah, I hope that it's really controlled and that it's very specific scenarios that they have you doing this. Is you are in line for something, and kind of like how they have the games in the interactive queues and stuff, where as you're going through the queue, you're doing something, but then by the end of the queue, you put your phone away, you get on the ride, and you actually ride the ride.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I don't know if you waited in the queue for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I have a couple times. But there's like this game that everybody likes to play towards like when you walk into the mountain, and it actually backs up the line because people get so into playing that they all of a sudden now there's a huge gap in the line. And I always wonder in those situations, I'm like, okay, is it okay to pass them, or because they decided they're going to stop?
I think that's totally fair. If you're going to stop and play around in the queue, yeah. Like the queue is designed that
you've given up your spot in line.
but really, at that point is if you're going to stop and mess about with the game, then you're going to have another 10 or 15 people in front of you, which really you're adding an extra 5 minutes to your day, like
exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the reason I bring that up is this could be kind of a solution to that, because it doesn't hold up the line if you're looking at your phone necessarily. People are usually still moving. I've seen plenty of people who are distracted and hold up the line, but this is a little bit different. I feel like it would be a little bit better to keep the line moving. But I don't know. I thought this was really an interesting thing and an interesting concept.
Yeah, it definitely has lots of potential, but they need to implement it correctly, right? Like you said, they need to make sure that it doesn't result in a bunch of people all clustered around an area. Kind of like think about how Pokemon Go was as a phenomenon when it first came out, where suddenly people would be at a Pokestop, or a rare Pokemon would spawn and there would suddenly be a mob of people everywhere. You don't want that kind of thing happening in the parks more than it already does at times. So
man, that whole fad disappeared within like 10 minutes, didn't it?
Well, no, it's still, or at least around here, people are still doing it. But yeah, it's toned down.
Yeah, like it was crazy for like a month there, and then.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I think this is a cool addition. I'll be interested to see how it's implemented and see some of the different things that they do with it. So, the next thing I wanted to bring up, and this is a cool thing, and I don't know if everybody thinks this is cool or not. I do, because I think this is really cool because I think it really fits in with a lot of what Disney tries to do in general, and also a lot with the Epcot theme and what I like to think that Walt Disney himself would have liked. And that's that Disney's building another solar panel farm. So they actually, some of you may know that they built a solar farm in the shape of Mickey Mouse right outside of Epcot. You can actually see it from overhead maps, satellite images. It's pretty cool to look at. I'm always amazed when I look at that. I'm like, man, they really got the shape like perfect. Which is kind of cool considering it's square or rectangular panels. But besides that, they've decided they're going to do another solar project, and this time they're going to use 270 acres and build a 50 megawatt solar farm. So that's 500,000 solar panels, and basically to put that in perspective, Disney actually put out a little flyer about this, and basically on average, the new solar facility will equate to 2 Disney theme parks. So basically, these new solar facilities, when they're operating at an average, capacity, will be able to power 2 whole Disney World theme parks. How cool is that? That's amazing. So,
That's great. I mean, yeah, they need to do something with it, right? Because I mean, just the fact that the parks are getting bigger and they are drawing more power. Because I mean, look at Avatar, for as being as natural as it's looking. I mean, that whole place lights up at night, and
there's a lot of electricity.
Yeah, that power has to come from somewhere. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and this solar farm will, during peaks on hours, will provide up to 25% of all of Disney World's power needs, which, I mean, is pretty cool. And when I think about this, I always think of and it's too bad Damon isn't here for this, but I always think of the old Universe of Energy that, had the solar panels on the roof. Like, that was the first time I had ever seen solar panels. And really at the time, I mean, that was a pretty revolutionary thing. And if I remember correctly, the solar panels were actually functional in that building. They used to power the vehicles in the building.
It helped with power, I think.
Not the whole.
It charged the battery. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me correct that. It didn't power the entire attraction. That's for sure. Because at that time, the solar panel technology was not where it is now, and so it definitely wasn't able to power the whole attraction. But I just always remember that, and then I always think of what Epcot was all about, and fostering technology and those types of things. And I feel like this is really kind of within that mission, and I just think it's really neat that they're doing this, and it is under technology, because I view solar panels as technology, right? So
yeah, no, that's fair. I think it's a good one to bring up, that they're trying to solve their problems before it becomes a problem, right?
Yeah, and I also don't think that most people know how environmentally friendly Disney World is. There's obviously a lot of waste that comes with running Disney World, right? You have a ton of cups and plates and all those types of things, but regardless of whether you throw a plastic bottle in the recycling or into the garbage, that still gets recycled. There are people that go through your garbage and find those recyclables and still recycle them. The Disney composts, I mean, they do things like their sewage treatment plant that treats all the sewage for all the parks. They turn all of the waste from that into fertilizer for the plants. So, I mean, they are just a very eco-friendly resort, and it's really neat to see that they do things like this. So,
and you know what? When I was at Animal Kingdom last year, it was actually the first time I've ever seen paper straws.
Oh yeah, paper straws. Yeah,
which I wish that was more of a thing. Like it's a pretty, I mean, it's a small thing, but it's really a big thing. Is all the little just buying a cup, like buying a drink. You've got a paper cup, which a lot of times those aren't even recyclable, and then a plastic lid, and then a plastic straw, which I've actually found out because up here that our recycling programs are really ramping up, is that some of those things aren't actually recyclable, which is really sad.
Sure.
That they can't reuse those. But then seeing that paper straws are a thing, that I think that's really cool, because they're actually those can be recycled. They're compostable and all that. So.
Well, and from what I'd seen too, just from, I think they have signs about it too. And I think the big reason that they have the paper straws there is because of the animals, I guess, that they don't want plastic getting into the exhibits, which makes sense. But it's also, I'm sure it's also because the park is very eco-friendly and very much, all about the environment and things like that too. So I'm sure that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, like I said, I would be fine with that spreading even outside of Animal Kingdom, because we do need more of that.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And another technology thing that we were going to talk about really, really quickly here is that this was actually something that Damon brought up last week. He was like, "Have we talked about this
His
thing?"
dream.
Yeah, well,
he swore he was dreaming when he saw this. But.
He thought he was dreaming, and then he also couldn't. To be fair, he couldn't describe it very properly. He was trying, but he's like the pictures, the thing with the pictures, and. So anyway, we figured out what he was talking about eventually, and I don't know how we missed this news, and because this was a week or so, or a couple weeks ago, but basically a new patent was published called Multimedia System for Transforming Any Room into a Show Environment, and basically it's a system that can convert any room into an immersive experience. So, and there's a quote that's in the document that says, "Conventional thinking in the hotel industry has been that it is desirable to make their guests feel very comfortable while they sleep, but to otherwise encourage their guests to leave the room to partake in entertaining activities such as shopping, dining on site, or elsewhere in a resort or nearby city." So, basically, I mean, this is obviously for the Star Wars hotel, right? It has to be. It has to.
Yeah, I can't see what else it could be. Like,
I mean, this is. I mean, and basically what this does is it like so I'll just read off this article here too. The in-room show system will include everything from lighting controls to audio to and mention of turning on stills and video playback. There will be a show controller for the system, which links to many devices like keyboard, mouses, touchscreens, monitors, voice recognition. And so like things can be projected onto the walls. It seems to me like I'm almost thinking to myself, like, can I walk into my room and like say like, hey room, turn on the TV to this channel, and then like, you know what I mean?
Earl Grey
like,
tea hot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then like the lights will come up, and then it'll project onto the wall. I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done with this.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, they kind of do some of this, I guess, with well, it's not really to the same level, but like in some of the rooms, in some of the theme rooms, is like, I know in Port Orleans is like they got fireworks on the headboard, like you push a button and little fireworks go off, and it sounds like this is like that next level where you really get like like cool projections and cool things that happen in the room, and like in the Star Wars hotel, like I'm wondering if like you'll be sitting there, eating dinner, and all of a sudden, like an X-wing flies by or something outside the room, and you hear the shots going off and everything. So
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, you're right. I can't see it being used for anything outside of Star Wars right now, even though the patent doesn't directly mention that, and I'm sure they probably have multiple plans for this. It's just this is the only one that we're aware of right now.
Exactly. And there's another quote in here too that I think that really kind of talks about what this thing does. It says, quote, later in the day when reservations are not possible or the family wants to stay in, the show system may be switched to match room service with an accompanying whole room audiovisual theming to a guest chosen or meal matching scene or setting. Example, provide an illusion that the room is actually a dining room at a particular restaurant or in some exotic outdoor setting. Yeah. What kind of exotic outdoor setting do you think that might be?
I don't know.
I don't know. Some planet, or maybe space.
Tatooine,
maybe space. Maybe just straight up space. This actually, I feel like almost is part of that space restaurant too that they announced at D23, but we really haven't heard anything about since then. That restaurant, where you're going to be like in space or whatever. It's going to be at Epcot. Maybe this has something to do with it. But the quote goes on, too, and says, gaming can be augmented, such with playing projection-enhanced board games. Again, very Star Wars, right?
Chess, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then it says, when outdoor displays, such as resort light shows, fireworks, and so on, are being missed, the room can be used to provide an unobstructed in-room view of the light show, fireworks, or other show. So in my mind, I'm thinking, you could say, watch the fireworks, and then all of the walls turn into like a 360 view of the fireworks at Magic Kingdom or something.
Well, or the Star Wars fireworks.
Yeah,
if we're keeping with the Star Wars thing here.
Of course, keeping with the Star Wars thing. But yeah. It seems like there's so many possibilities for this, and it just seems very, very cool.
And the more you're like, as you're talking about like changing to match your dining experience and all that, this is starting to sound very like Star Trek-ish. And I'm sorry to bring up Star Trek as we're talking about Star Wars, but
you're allowed to bring up Star Trek. It's there. It's cool.
Yeah, I know, but some people get sensitive about that.
Do they really? Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole Trekkie Star Wars thing. I don't know. But yeah, it almost sounds like a holodeck, doesn't it? Like you just walk into a room and you say, make it this setting, and then so
that's a good point. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
this is going to be so cool. This is just going to be so cool.
I'm really trying not to hype myself up and be to the point of being disappointed when it finally comes around, but it does have a ton of potential. It really does. Like there's so much they can do with this kind of technology.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking though. I mean, outside of Star Wars, there's all sorts of cool things they could do with this. I mean, they could do highly themed rooms at other resorts as well. I mean, depending on how much this technology costs. That's another thing. Who knows how much it costs? But I mean, they could do some really. I mean, we talked a long time ago. I remember we didn't joke, but we were kind of brought up the idea of like, what if there was like an Avatar themed hotel, right? This could apply to that too. You could have an immersive avatar-themed hotel room. There's lots of possibilities for it, and it's really pretty neat. But this has to be for Star Wars. There's no way it's for anything else.
Well, and I'm also as we're talking about that, is I'm thinking back to when we stayed at Caribbean Beach. We actually spent a couple of days in one of the pirate themed rooms.
Yeah,
and that in and of itself was pretty awesome. Like having everything themed, but again, if you want to talk that next level, is imagine if they take those theme rooms and suddenly, there's a pirate ship going across the walls.
Oh, yeah.
Or, like pictures start talking to you and stuff like that. Gosh,
Well, yeah, and they know your names because you're in your room, right? So they can directly address you. Oh, man. There's so many cool things.
That's cool, but that could also be nightmare fuel at the same time.
It would probably creep me out too. Yeah, it would creep me out too. All right, well, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah. More fun with creepy things.
So Disney recently showed off a prototype for something they're calling a force jacket, and I like to believe that they're probably they're doing a little Star Wars thing there, right? By calling it a force jacket, but
yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah. But I like the cross promotion. But basically, what this is, right now, current VR and AR technology, and so virtual reality and augmented reality technology, you're really just kind of seeing things, right? And so Disney's working on something called a force jacket, where basically you're going to be wearing, you could wear this jacket, which while you're experiencing things in virtual reality, you can feel things touching you, squeezing, punching, hugging. It even says that you can feel the sensation of a snake moving across your body while wearing this jacket. This is crazy and really cool, and this is just a prototype, but first of all, I can't see this ever being used in a Disney ride. Can you imagine having to get on a ride and put on a jacket? That would be a nightmare.
Yeah, no. This is more like kind of like the Void. Yeah, that tuned experience. And actually, maybe even that. Going back to the Star Wars hotel is part of these experiences is maybe part of is you go to do an interaction and you have to put on a stormtrooper vest or something like that, and so you actually feel, when things are going off, you can feel, blasts going off and everything.
Yeah, if it's put in the
vest, right?
If it's put in the context of a costume that you're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good, right? Because if it's just okay, I'm wearing a costume, I'm dressed like a Jedi or whatever, and then it's built into that, and then you feel that stuff. That would be cool.
Yeah, so that's where I can see that kind of thing, because again, you're right. In the standard theme park context, having wearable tech it's a good and a bad thing. Bad in that you've got so many people going through there. Is how do you even just look at the glasses they use for Star Tours? Is they have to keep those they have to keep cleaning them because you can't have.
Germs.
Germs get transmitted. So it gets even worse when you're talking, actual garments that people wear. They have to keep those things maintained. And I think, in a more controlled environment, where it's an interaction or something where you've got less people and it's more tuned to the individual. That's where this makes more sense to me. I don't see it being at a larger scale, part of the Millennium Falcon ride or anything like that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's just the loading times for it would be ridiculous. It would just be impossible for them to maintain that. It would be for more the unique individual experiences. But definitely a cool idea. And going along that route of cool ideas, this was something you actually found, Trevor.
I like this one because it's funny to me, but do you want me to introduce it?
Yeah, you go right ahead. I assumed if Damon was here, he'd probably bring this on me and make fun of me for this somehow. But
this one is they filed a patent for a ride thrill level meter of some sort. So the idea is that when you get on a ride, the ride can sense various biometrics, so heart rate, skin temperature, facial expressions, gestures, all that kind of stuff, and then it actually tailors the experience to how you're feeling. So if you're very, stressed out or whatever, it'll dial down the amount of, or the intensity of the ride. But if you're happy and you're enjoying it, then it can make the ride more intense. So it makes the idea is that they're going to take rides and tailor them to individuals. People that are wanting a less exciting or less extreme interaction or less extreme experience will get that. But then the people that want the extreme experience will get what they want. And actually, it's funny because I think this actually speaks. And I mean, Damon will probably correct me on this as well, but I think this is actually something that would speak to what he keeps saying about how, a lot of Disney rides aren't as extreme as he necessarily wants them to be. And this is a way to allow both of those, is that, you get the experiences that are more for, younger families or people that, don't deal with extreme situations very well. But then the people that want those kinds of things can get them all in the same place. But
Yeah.
but the funny thing about this, and I said this on Facebook, is if you want the most extreme, experience out of this, do you basically have to ride a ride with a poker face so that it'll keep ramping it up so that but don't be sad or upset or anything, but just be like, this is boring. I don't like this. Yeah.
Stone face. Yeah.
Yeah. Just look bored through the whole ride, and then you get the most crazy thing that you love at the end, but you have to be like completely stoic through the whole thing.
I did find it interesting too. This patent mentioned too that it could so if that's the case, it could take you on a different path, maybe. Right, so with their trackless rides, it could take you on a different path. Maybe that's more intense or whatever. But it's hilarious that you bring that up. That it's I mean, or if somebody looks terrified, is it just going to be kind of a lame version of the ride? I almost don't like the idea of it automatically adjusting. I almost want to choose, because I think sometimes it is fun to be scared, right? So, or fun to not know what's going to happen, and then just kind of scream, basically, yell, and that's a fun feeling. And if it's just taking that away by making it less extreme, I feel like you're almost missing out on something.
Right, and I think, but that does play into people that get very anxious about those rides and feeling motion sick and all that kind of thing. Is that I think this is to help take some of that away. But I actually kind of look at it the same as, Mission Space is a good example, where you have the orange and the green side, right? And orange is the intense, that's what you want. You want that crazy, high G-force, crazy feeling. But then the green side is the more, mellow. You're just kind of going along for the visual and, almost like Pirates of the Caribbean type ride, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
I was almost thinking of it if you're on Dinosaur, maybe the movement of the car would be a little bit less accentuated, and if you want the less extreme version, and if it was more extreme, it would be a little bouncier. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Yeah,
and I mean, I can see them doing stuff like that too, or again, even Star Tours, right? Is kind of how Star Tours has the different paths you can go down, and it seems to shuffle it, is maybe adjusting that if everybody's really hyped up, is that you get a really crazy space fight of some sort. But then if everybody's not liking it as much, then you go to Endor and you just kind of cruise through the forest and you're done, right? So
yeah, that's a good point. I like it.
Yeah,
interesting. So I think that's the end of our different all the different things that we were going to talk about technology-wise.
Yeah.
Well, although our two rumors are kind of tech-oriented, so we're going to head into the rumor section here. And this first rumor, what are you going to say, Trevor? I
was going to say they are tech, but they're more here and now kind of things. They're not, future.
Yeah, that's true.
Future things. It's these are things that need to happen, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So those of you that have visited Disney World recently and used the bus system have noticed that they now have bus wait times at the bus stops when you're waiting. Now, of course, they're never going to be completely accurate. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people look at these and they go, oh, it says it's going to be here in 9 minutes. It's going to be here in exactly 9 minutes. Anybody who's ever used Google Maps or, any sort of map system to go somewhere understand that traffic happens. Things happen.
I mean, even riding your standard city bus is, it can't be 100% accurate all the time.
It can't be. But so a lot of people had, for the longest time, thought that this capability would move to the My Disney Experience app, and it looks like that is going to be happening. So this is a rumor right now. We don't know if this is true or not, but Walt Disney World News Today is actually reporting that this is something that is going to be coming to My Disney Experience, where you're going to be able to view those bus wait times from the app, which I think would be great. I think that's a great addition to My Disney Experience.
Honestly, I think it's an easy win, right? Because
totally.
I mean, they're spending time and money on those monitors that they have at each bus stop, which they definitely should still keep those because not everybody has access to My Disney Experience or things to use it. So
or even knows that it exists. There's lots of people that don't even know it's there. So
yeah, exactly. Everybody coming to Disney World doesn't necessarily have a phone or have the app or have the intent of even using the app. So it's good that they keep them there. But yeah, having it in MDE, it seems obvious because it's just another system that they can hook into from, again, looking at things from the technical side, from the back end, assuming that it's set up correctly, is that it's just a feed. It'll be the same feed that you'll see on the screen at the bus stop, exactly. But it'll just be inside MDE, which for me will be great because, I can be in my room and so I don't have to run out to the bus stop and find that I'm going to be standing there for 20 minutes.
Yep.
I mean, you still don't want to leave it to the last minute, but if I see it's the next bus is 30 minutes away or whatever, is I'm not going to be in a rush to get out there, but you can kind of gauge your time a little bit better, right? So
yeah, that's exactly right. I just think about in the morning when I want to go out to the bus stop and get to the park as early as possible. If I could look from my room and find out how long it was until the bus was coming, that would really kind of help me with getting ready in the morning, figuring out how long I have to take, if we need to leave now, so, and really give me a good idea of my schedule. I think it's great as long as you have the expectation that bus times are not always going to be 1,000% accurate. Buses get delayed or they get rerouted sometimes. So just because the time goes up on it doesn't mean it's inaccurate. In fact, it just means it's really accurate, right? It's just recalculating it to what the current time is. So I think this is a great piece of technology to add to this. So
yeah, and it's funny actually. I'm thinking about when I was a kid in my city, our transit system, they actually used to have a phone system that you could call in for your bus stop. So you would dial a number and then put in your bus stop number, and it would tell you how long it was until your next bus was coming. Which nice. I remember as being in junior high and high school, I would call this number, and then they would be like, "Oh yeah, the bus is arriving in 3 minutes," and then I'd be sprinting down the street to try and catch the bus. And I can see the same kind of thing happening where I check MDE and it's like, we gotta go now.
We gotta leave. We gotta get to the room. Forget the sunscreen. We'll put it on in the way.
I don't care. Just, shoes. You don't need shoes. Let's go.
Exactly. That's so gonna happen.
No, but seriously, people put on your shoes. But
yeah, exactly. You need them. They won't let you in the park without them.
Exactly.
So that's funny. So just to end this thing today, the big rumor that's out there, and this is exciting to me.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's exciting to everybody, is that Disney has ordered new monorail trains for Walt Disney World to replace the original, not the original, but the current fleet, which was put into service in 1989. Let that sink in for a second.
That is 30 years.
They're almost 30 years old. I believe the actual lifespan of them was supposed to be 15 years. So they are almost double their original lifespan, which is pretty amazing. So the rumor is that the Main Street Theater project was actually canceled to pay for the new trains. And this is partly in response to the issue that happened with the door. We mentioned it earlier, the door that opened mid travel, while it was traveling, that door opened, and I guess finally, I'm sure all of the people that work on the monorails have been ever been like, hey, we need to replace these, and then finally that was kind of the last the
straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, the last straw. And so the rumor is that they canceled the Main Street Theater project that was announced at D23 to pay for the trains. It's rumored that the trains will be built by Bombardier in Canada. So look at that. Hey, Good for you guys there in Canada building the monorails.
Yeah, they do good stuff. I mean, those monorails are used all over the world. So
yeah, and actually their latest fleet of monorails are automated, which I was thinking to myself, I know Disney's been updating their system to try to automate their current monorails that they have, and that has never come to fruition. They've been working on that for quite a long time now, several years. So I do wonder if when these new monorails do come, if they are going to be driverless. So that would be really interesting to me if they did that.
Yeah, I mean, don't they already have that at the Orlando airport?
They do.
Driverless tram?
There's lots of trams that are out there that are completely driverless. So it wouldn't surprise me, especially since that's the current technology, if they just were to do that at Disney World too. Now, I don't know if there's more complicated needs at Disney World because of handicapped folks and people with strollers, and when they have to hold the train up, sometimes to get people on. I don't know if that's an issue, but I'm sure that's something they can work through. What's interesting... Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I think with those kind of situations is you're still going to have attendants on the platforms. Like they can't, just... Yeah. You're never going to see no cast members. There's still going to be people helping with, getting people on and off and all that. So...
Yeah, that's definitely true. What is interesting about this, and this was a recent kind of addition to the story, because this is rumor, but... Bob Gurr, the famous Imagineer who was responsible for designing a lot of the early designs for the monorails, kind of sort of confirmed that Disney has purchased new monorails, that the contract was signed, and that they are in production. I say kind of sort of because he kind of said that there was a contract in place, right? Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been officially announced, but it sounds like I wouldn't think Bob Gurr would be talking about it if it wasn't pretty solid at this point. And again, let's take all that with a grain of salt too. Is that he knows what he knows, but the thing kind of like with the theater on Main Street is plans may change, but I'm really hoping that these trains don't, because I would love to see them upgraded. I'm tempted to say this rumor is definitely true, because these are 30-year-old trains. They need to replace them. Exactly. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. They need to be replaced. So, and it would be cool. I would love to see a really neat new futuristic version of this. Because obviously Bombardier has a standard version of what they look like. But it would be really neat if Disney, because Disney will obviously design these to their own specifications. They'll have a cool design to them. So I'm hoping it's something really, really cool that they do with them, and they're not just a standard look to them, Yeah,
and that was my understanding with the article that we were reading, is that they're requesting it's a standard type of monorail, so one of the ones that they currently manufacture, but they're doing custom bodywork on it so that it does fit the Disney monorail aesthetic. So it doesn't just look like any other monorail.
Agreed. Yeah. So that's going to be really cool. I actually think it'd be cool if they did different, some of the each train had a different flair to it design wise, that if they didn't all look the same. I feel like that would be really neat. But.
So are you thinking I know they do the wraps on them sometimes, where they're promoting something, or are you thinking that each train would have a significant body design,
a different style, a different, the Disneyland one looks way different than the Disney World one, right?
Right.
So maybe you throw in one that looks like the Disneyland one, or I don't know. I'm not a designer, so but I'm sure they'll all be the same, because I'm sure the cost and time to do that is too much,
and maintaining them too.
Yeah, sure.
If they're different body designs, I can see where that could be a problem.
I can see that too, but I'm excited about this. I think it's good, and it'll really help keep the monorail as a feasible transportation option throughout Disney World. So
and especially looking at what we have Toy Story Land coming, we have Star Wars Land coming. The place is just going to get busier if they don't do something about those monorails sooner than later. I can't imagine if that, from what I've read and heard, there's that issue back earlier this year with the door not closing, but there's been multiple malfunctions and points where the monorail has just not been operating because they, at various points, there's been pretty big failures that they've had to fix. And I can't imagine when, they're super busy as, Hollywood studios ramps up again, and there's more and more stuff coming for them to say, oh, you got to get on the bus, or we got to run more buses. Like, that's not
that's not in the cards.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So, all right, cool. Well, why don't we, do you have anything else to mention before we wrap this thing up?
The only other thing I'm going to mention right now is, so I'm going to be in Disney World next week. So I will get to see and experience some of these things we talked about firsthand. And, I'll be keeping an eye out, obviously, on the Toy Story Land progress and Star Wars Land and everything. There probably won't be much to talk about, but hopefully when I get back. So I won't be back in time for the next podcast, because we'll just be coming back that day. But after that, I will have a trip update for you guys.
Great. Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear all the stuff from your trip, especially, seeing all the construction and all the different things that are going on. So
yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you'll share some pictures on our Facebook page or
yeah,
Instagram,
for sure.
I'm sure.
I will try and post pictures. So I will post them to Facebook, which means they should get posted on Instagram. I suck at Instagram, so I'm not even going to attempt it this time. But yeah, as I see cool stuff, I will try to make sure I get it up there so that you guys can all check it out. Perfect.
Well, go ahead and get us started, wrapped up here.
All right. Well, as we've been talking about things here, any questions, comments, any of that kind of stuff, you can, of course, reach us by email, which is welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. We also we have our website with our very limited profiles and all that, which actually really, I think our website kind of goes back to Facebook. But if you want to go to the website, it is www.welcomehomepodcast.com. Again, always looking for questions. If you guys have things you want us to talk about on the next podcast, or you want to talk about things that we did talk about here, we love hearing that from you guys. On Facebook, if you guys can, follow, share us. Again, that helps get us more visibility. We see people asking about podcasts on various Facebook groups and stuff. We do try to, mention the podcast for people to discover us and, hopefully like us. But if you do want to find us on Facebook, we are Welcome Home Podcast, all one word, on Facebook. On Twitter, it's Welcome Home Pod, and Instagram is Welcome Home Pics. And as usual, if you did happen to find, or if you downloaded us on iTunes or Google Play, leaving reviews for us gives more visibility as well, so that more people can find us that way too.
Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to Welcome Home, so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. That way, when we send one out, you guys get an alert on your phone telling you that a new episode of Welcome Home's out, and you can listen to our latest episode. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, just about any place you can find podcasts. You can find us. You just have to search for Welcome Home, and we will be there. And just a reminder to our listeners, Welcome Home Podcast is for entertainment only. We are not employed by the Walt Disney Company, and as such, any and all opinions we express on this show are our own, so please consult your DVC representative, Disney cast member for more information. And join us next time for more Disney Parks discussion, of course, more DVC talk. We hope to see you all real soon.
This is Skipper Albert AWOL, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
We do a huddle when we hit a chair. How she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl.